Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, recording started. Yes, I have to go back to the app class.
That's fine, please.
All right then.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Azure training. Okay. Today we'll be looking at core solutions of Azure. Okay, but before then, for the benefit of those that are just joining us, I would say welcome textilers. My name is Oluwatosin Anishere. A cloud infrastructure and Microsoft security consultant, and I'm also a mentor for tech stylers. Okay, so for the house rules, if you have any question, you can use the raise your hand, icon. Um, Once you ask your question, you're done, you can lower your hand. In a situation whereby I'm unable to see it, please, you are free to, call my attention, intercept and call my attention. It's absolutely fine by me. Okay, but if you're not asking question or you're not contributing, please do ensure to mute your mic so that we don't distract others on the call. Okay. Also, you can use the meeting chat to drop your question if you do not want to ask the question verbally. Okay, so the module outline for this, again, we are going into core solutions. So the module outline for this is we'll be learning about the as core Azure solutions, the IoT to Azure Sphere, the Synapse Analytics to Databricks, then AI to ML, that's artificial intelligence, as well as machine learning. We'll also look at the Azure management tools, the likes of the portal, which we have seen from time to time, a PowerShell, which we would, I think I would get a day outside to just talk about PowerShell. Also, CLI and others, we'll take a look at those in today's training. Now, we'll also look at the advisor, monitor, and health service. These are all, monitoring services on Azure. Okay, so these are the things we would cover today. So let me set the expectation. Yes, we will be doing the lab, but the approach in which I want to take is we'll do the talking first and the discussion, after which we get to do the lab. I think from past classes, I noticed the labs in between usually take our time and it delays us, but it's not a problem. We are equally going to do labs, just to demonstrate things for you to see. However, we will do that at the end of the training so that we can exhaust these modules. Also, at the end of the training, I would drop some links in the meeting chat to help you, study on your own, or to, deep dive more into information, and, just for you to get information around things or to help you study. So that's, what we'll be doing. Okay, so again, Azure solutions. So the objective here is we are going to describe the benefit and usage of these things listed on the screen: the Internet of Things, IoT Central, IoT Hub, IoT Central, Azure Sphere, the Azure Synapse Analytics, HD Insights, Azure Databricks, Azure Machine Learning, Cognitive Services, Azure Bot Service, serverless computing solution that include Azure Function and Logic Apps, and finally Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions, and Azure Dev Test Lab. Now, don't forget, we are only doing the foundation, and we need to, list these things to you. We need to, inform you of these things for you to have an idea. So we wouldn't go deep dive. I'm sorry, I just need to set expectation. We are not going to go deep dive because the idea is we are just trying to learn these things from the scratch, familiarize ourselves with it, and even form the path we want to follow, in the course of this training. So everything we have been doing and we will continue to do so far for this particular foundation training is going to be the basics. So there wouldn't be much deep dive so that we don't confuse anyone, or we don't discourage anyone like maybe it's too difficult or I'm lost or something. So we will stay on the basics. And don't forget, if you have any question or you are confused, please feel free to ask. It's okay. In fact, today's training, I'll make it as interactive as possible such that I wouldn't be the only one, speaking to you. All right, so let's get started. Azure Internet of Things. Let me put it to you. Has anyone heard of this before? IoT. Remember I said this class is going to be as interactive as possible. IoT, has anyone heard of it before? Ladies.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No.
Who else? Okay, Dalakwa says no. Orium says yes. Am I correct? Did I pronounce your name well? Oriomi, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Please, can you share with us your understanding or your idea? Not necessarily you defining it, but what you just think about it.
Okay, so far, the only thing I think I know about it is just the way you ensure that is it machine or any devices can be transformed to do one or two things human being are able to do. Like you automate most devices, just device automation. That's what I
Okay,
understand about it.
okay. That's no fine. Based on your understanding, that's fine. But what I'm able to get from it is I'm hearing a little bit of machine learning. I'm hearing a little bit of artificial intelligence and all of it. But it's good. We are all here. We will learn and see these things differently. So when we say Internet of Things, IoT, okay, I can put it this way for our understanding. It's pretty much any device whatsoever, any device that you can think of that has a sensor on it, then you can take in an analog data and transform the analog data into a digital signal, such that it is being used on a broad network connection. So anything whatsoever that has sensor, in it. So if I'm going to give examples, I'm going to say the likes of smartwatch, the likes of your, you know, maybe your washing machine, the likes of your air conditioner. That's pretty much connected to the internet, and you can even control these things on the internet. So if I want to put it in another way, I could say the devices that are connected to internet. As simple as that for our understanding, so that we don't confuse things. What we have here on the screen is saying IoT is the ability for a device to gather and then relay information for data analysis. Okay. Just pretty much what Gbemi was, no, I'm sorry, Oriyomi, I meant, was describing based on our own understanding. So again, IoT in a simple way, you can say devices connected to the internet. So you could have, for instance, let's say a camera, in a place or in a room that you know, gathers data based on what it has captured. Now, those things that is being captured, you can refer to them as data. So you can upload all of this data in a central location. That's why I say it relays information for data, analysis. So that's IoT in a simple way that I can relate to this. Now we now have all of these services within Azure. We have the Azure IoT Central, we have the Azure IoT Hub, we have the Azure IoT Sphere. So these are services um, on the IoT that we have in Azure. So if you look at them one after the other, for the IoT Hub, so we can refer to this as it's a cloud host managed service. Cloud host managed service. So what it basically does for this IoT, oh, sorry, I think I was talking about Hub. Sorry, I'm supposed to talk about IoT Central. Okay, so let me start with Central. Forgive me, please. Okay, starting with the IoT Central, it's actually an application development platform that is being hosted in the cloud. So it's basically for a SaaS solution. So what it does is this fully managed IoT SaaS solution is very easy to connect. So it's easy to connect, to monitor, and you manage this IoT access at a large scale, just like it's been stated on the screen. Again, it's mainly for SaaS services. That's the software as a service. Okay. On the other hand, for IoT Hub, that's one is a hosted, is usually hosted in the cloud. It's a managed service that is hosted in the cloud, and it's a two-way communication. Okay, two-way communication in the sense that you can you need a device, that like device to the cloud, and also cloud to device. So something like that. There's a two-way communication. That's why on the screen here it says it's a managed service hosted in cloud that acts as a central message hub for by directional communication between IoT applications and the devices it manages. Okay, so that's for IoT Hub. Now the Azure Sphere. Now the Azure Sphere in these instances, usually there are vendors. Let me bring it there. So there are vendors that build, some kind of microcontrollers, that is being used. So the Azure Sphere is a form of, standardized, the standardized level of these microcontrollers. Now, yeah, it's a secured high-level application platform with built-in communication and security features for internet-connected device. So, for instance, of the microcontrollers I talked about is Raspberry Pi. I don't know if any one of us has heard of that. Raspberry Pi. It's actually a microcontroller that's it's part of this IoT you know sphere that is being used. So these are all the things that we have within the Internet of Things. Okay, so before we go on to the next page, I think I'll bring up a video, that is descriptive to help us understand, because I've come to realize that when it comes to learning, not just the hearing alone, sometimes visuals, could help aid a better understanding. So I'll be bringing up a very short clip of this IoT just for us to, understand it better and all. So let me know once you're able to, see that on the screen, and let me know once you're able to hear the audio as well. So 1 minute, let me bring that up. Okay, so please let me know once you're able to hear.
The Internet of Things, or IoT, is influencing our lifestyle from the way we react to the way we behave. From air conditioners
Yes,
that
we
you
can
can
hear.
control with your smartphone,
Thank you.
to smart cars providing the shortest route, or your smartwatch which is tracking your daily activity. IoT is a giant network of connected devices. These devices gather and share data about how they are used and the environment in which they are operated. It's all done using sensors. Sensors are embedded in every physical device. It can be your mobile phone, electrical appliances, vehicles, barcode sensors, traffic lights, and almost everything that you come across in day-to-day life. These sensors continuously emit data about the working state of the devices. But the important question is, how do they share this huge amount of data, and how do we put this data to our benefit? IoT provides a common platform for all these devices to dump their data and a common language for all the devices to communicate with each other. Data is emitted from various sensors and sent to IoT platforms securely. IoT platform integrates the collected data from various sources. Further analytics is performed on the data and valuable information is extracted as per requirement. Finally, the result is shared with other devices for better user experience, automation, and improving efficiency. Let us look at a scenario where IoT is doing wonders. In an AC manufacturing industry, both the manufacturing machine and the belt have sensors attached. They continuously send data regarding the machine health and the production specifics to the manufacturer to identify issues beforehand. A barcode is attached to each product before leaving the belt. It contains the product code, manufacturer details, special instructions, etc. The manufacturer uses this data to identify where the product was distributed and track the retailer's inventory. Hence, the manufacturer can make the product running out of stock available. Next, these products are packed and parceled to different retailers. Each retailer has a barcode reader to track the products coming from different manufacturers, manage inventory, check special instructions, and many more. The compressor of air conditioner has an embedded sensor that emits data regarding its health and temperature. This data is analyzed continuously, allowing the customer care to contact you for the repair work in time. This is just one of the million scenarios. We have smart appliances, smart cars, smart homes, smart cities, where IoT is redefining our lifestyle and transforming the way we interact with technologies. The future of IoT industry is huge. Business Insider Intelligence estimates that 24 billion IoT devices will be installed by 2020, and IDC predicts that IoT revenue will reach around 357 billion in 2019, resulting in a lot of job opportunities in the IT industry. Want to become a part of the IoT revolution? Come and master IoT with Edureka.
Okay, thank you. For your time, I believe you got
The
something
Internet of
out
Things,
of
or IoT,
the Internet of
is
Things,
influencing our lifestyle from the way we react to the way we behave.
Okay, thank you. I believe you got something out of that video. You are able to relate and understand. And there's something common from the video. I don't know if anyone was able to grab that, the kind of devices, that uses IoT. Did anyone get something out of it? Don't forget, I said it's going to be as interactive as possible. I would not be the only one talking. Okay. Did anyone want, you said?
Sensors.
Sensors one. Any other thing? Any other thing that you were able to, pick from the video and relate to, IoT? Okay, so yes, sensors, because remember I told you that IoT is any device that has sensors, and most of the devices that have sensors, we refer to them as smart devices. You know, like they said, the smartwatch, it has sensors because it's able to, read the temperature, what's it called, your heartbeat and whatever. So because of that sensor, it's one of the characteristics why it's referred to as smart. The same thing for a car. You refer to it as smart because of the sensor. Probably is able to see the environment or is able to navigate with you and so and all of these things works with the internet. So without taking spending too much time on IoT, please let's move on. Again, we will do the labs at the end of the training so that we'll be able to cover the entire what's it called agenda for this module. Okay, let's talk about big data and analytics. So what comes to mind when you hear big data? Or let me start with, has anyone heard of the word big data before? I know we are new,
Yes.
but some of us must have heard of it. All right, I heard Chioma say yes. Any other person? Oh, Okay, please. Thank you, Chama. So, what's your understanding of it? Like, what do you think this big data is based on the way you've been hearing it, or probably you've even worked with it? So, what is it based on your understanding?
Okay, so big data has to do with data that has been collected over time and are running in millions, probably billions. As it's heavy, it's not like the ones that you have just a limited number, maybe 10,000 and the rest. Looking at a bigger segment around.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was spot on. Thank you very much. So when you say big data, you know, I can put it to you to everyone like this, that if you're looking at data storage, and you are trying to analyze data that is over 1 terabyte, then you have a big data. I don't know if you're getting me. You want to analyze a particular data, and that particular data you're trying to analyze is over, you know, 1 TB, that's 1 terabyte, then you have a big data. You can refer to that as a big data. And this big data, they utilizes like a 3V model. There's something we call 3V model, wherein you look at the volume in terms of size, you look at the velocity in terms of how many, for instance, probably like the IoT we just discussed about, their telemetry in the way they gather data or pick data. We can refer to that as telemetry. Okay, so telemetry refer to remote measurement. So when we say the measurement, like we say, okay, maybe it's receive 1,000 messages per hour, and those kind of messages, they're all we can refer to them as data. So the 3 V's, we have volume, we have velocity, and we have variety. Variety in the sense that the data could be a JSON format, it could be a JavaScript, it could be a CSV, it could be any of these and even more. Okay, so it's utilizes those three models. And when it comes to big data and analytics, we have these three on the screen, as the analytics. So it's just trying to say what tools you use to analyze your data, or the services or tools you are using to analyze this big data. So we have the Azure Synapse Analytics, we have the Azure HD Insight, we have Databricks. Now, these are the three big services that we have. Now, let me start with this Azure synapses. Now, for this one, for some of us that are familiar with it, probably before joining this training, and if you're even totally new, probably you've heard it before in school or something, we formally referred this to as the Azure, what's this called again? Azure Data Warehouse. That's what we refer to it as before the name is being changed. So the name was changed to Azure Synapse Analytics. It's just like before where you say we used to have something like Sky for Business. Now we now have Teams. So it's no longer Sky for Business. It's like you have Teams. Teams is now the collaboration hub that you have. Something like that is with regards to this Azure Synapse Analytics. And why do I say that? It's because you have this the data warehouse with something we call data lakes. Okay, on the screen here is telling you there is a cloud-based enterprise data warehouse. Okay, that's what it used to be, but because of this is a like the opposite of data lakes. I will talk about that if there's need for me to talk about that. It's an opposite of it. So what this does is it stores structured data that you already understand. The only the um, just that's what the data warehouse do as well. They store structured data that is already understood, or that you already understand, but this time around it gives it some kind of massive parallel processing. Okay, so with this Synapse Analytics, you can actually query data on your terms using any of the serverless computing. I'm sure you still remember serverless computing for our previous training, the likes of function apps, logics app, etc. You can do that such that this will give you a form of unified experience wherein you'll be able to prepare, you'll be able to manage and serve data for use. This can equally be used in preparation for maybe your business intelligence or for the purpose of machine learning needs. We'll also talk about machine learning. So if there's anything you will take home, that it's as simple as possible is for you to understand that this Azure Synapse Analytics, okay, is a cloud-based enterprise data warehouse, and it actually stores structured data that you already understand. Now let's go to the next one that we have on the screen here, which is the Azure HD Insights. This has been around for long. This is really the original, should I say, data analytics product family. For some of us that are familiar, if you are new to all this, it's okay. That's why I'm actually starting from basics, such that nobody is confused and I can carry everybody along. So this Azure HD Insights is the original data analytics product family that I initially mentioned. So it's a fully managed open source analytics service for enterprise, just like it's written here on the screen. Now this it's cloud service. It's all of these things that we're seeing on the screen, they're all cloud services. Now the HD Insight is actually a cloud service that makes it very easy. It's fast and it's cost effective for processing that large amount of data. The idea is we know what big data is, okay, and these are services that helps us to analyze this big data. Okay, now we are now saying this HD Insight also helps in processing those amount of large data that we have. Now one can run different open source, like we said is a fully managed open source. We have open source like Apache Spark. I don't know if you have heard of that. If you haven't, please take note. You can have that kind of open source, or should I say framework. You have the Apache add-up, you have the Apache HB base, and so on and so forth. There are some of them like that, and you can also have even the ML, that's the machine learning service as well. Now the last one here on the screen is Azure Databricks. Azure Databricks. Now Databricks in itself, whether Azure is like an independent company, they do cloud hosted Apache what's it called, Apache Spark platform. That's Databricks on its own. Now the Azure Databricks is now an Azure hosted Databricks platform. This is this can help you to unlock insights from all your data and build you an artificial intelligence solution. So it's more or less like the next generation kind of, I can put it like that, the next generation, or like the next big thing, like the trend, or should I say latest. I don't know if I'm even using the right word, but I believe you understand me in what say. It's very big, and it's more or less the latest thing. Like I said, it helps you to unlock insights. It's from these data that you have and you're trying to analyze, then it builds an artificial intelligence solution out of it. So with Azure Databricks, don't forget that I said the the Apache Spark is an Apache Spark based analytics service. Now what it does is you can set up your Apache Spark environment and then auto scale and collaborate the share product in an interactive workspace. Now this is something that can be done on Azure portal. And of course, when we get to the point that we'll be doing our lab, you will get to see this and understand this. Remember, I said something about data lake. I mentioned it while I was explaining the Azure Synapse Analytics. So, and I was saying something like it's like an opposite of Azure Data Lake. So let me just use this moment to talk about the Azure Data Lake as well. Now, this Azure Data Lake Analytics is also um, we can refer to it as a job service that simplifies big data. Now, instead of us kind of deploying or we write queries to transform our data and probably extract valuable insight. So what this analytics will do is it will handle the job for us, of this scale, and instantly, it does that much. So using this particular data lake, we pay for what we use. Okay, not to confuse us too much, I'm just trying to say we have this Azure Synapse Analytics, the Azure HD Insight, the Azure Databricks, and I'm mentioning to us because it's possible you read maybe on your own while you're doing a self-study, or you're watching some other video. You could come across something called data lake analytics, Azure data lake analytics, and that's why I equally mentioned it here. Okay, now we have the artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, but before I talk about this, any question, please? So far, so good. We've talked about IoT. We've talked about big data, and within the IoT, we talked about the IoT Hub. We talked about the IoT Central. We talked about the Azure Sphere. Okay, and for the big data, don't forget we actually talked about the Azure Databricks, which I said is the latest. We talked about HD Insights, that's Azure HD Insights. We talked about the Synapse Analytics, and I mentioned to us Azure Data Lake. I don't know if you have any question before I move on.
Yes, I do. I'm not still clear between, you mentioned the Azure Synapses analytics, and you said it's like the opposite of the Azure Data Lake. So I'm not sure if I'm clear, if I understood why you said it's the opposite of Azure Data Lake.
Okay, so maybe I should use a better word such as constructs. So what it this let me start with the Synapse Analytics. What that does is you can query the data on your own terms, uh, whether you're using any of the serverless services, and you can provision resources at large scale. Okay, now for data lakes, this it helps you to simplify the big data. So instead of deploying or querying, or instead of you writing your queries to transform data, it will just extract the particular insights that you need. Okay, it pulls data from unknown. The let me put this to you so that you understand once and for all. Azure Synapse, that one stores structured data that you already understand. You understand that, okay, this is the kind of data I'm dealing with, and this is me trying to query this data using my own terms and all. But for Azure Data Lake, you do not understand what kind of data. So most of the time it pulls data from unknown. You don't know the data, you're just pulling data out of the unknown. And this Azure Data Lake Analytics, what it will now do is it will help you simplify it and extract the valuable insight that you would be needing. I don't know if you get that, please.
Yes, it's clearer. So let me
All right,
just reiterate. What it
please
means
go
is
ahead.
the other one you do it yourself, but for the data lake, it kind of does the job for you and then brings out like the insights or whatever you need for your analysis or whatever. I
Yes,
don't know if
that's
I'm
why
clear. If that
yes, in your understanding, yes, I would say yes to that. So that's why they say that it can handle jobs. It's a job service. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Okay, let's move on to the next. This is something popular as well. I'm sure a lot of us must have heard that. AI and ML. AI and ML. I don't know if you've ever used your phone and noticed. Maybe probably you make use of this social media platform a lot, and probably um, on your page you are the like that likes looking at weddings. Maybe you like them all the time. I don't know, please follow me through. I'm driving somewhere. You like, probably you see the wedding stuff you like all the time. Most of the content that will be pushed to you would be around the weddings, because over time those are your activities. I don't know if you are getting me, please. Or even let's
yes,
get back
yes,
to YouTube. Maybe on YouTube, whenever you browse, you're the kind that browses, okay, maybe Nigerian movies. Over time it will understand, it will study that pattern, you know and give you all those something similar. So it's around this, artificial intelligence, machine learning and all. So it picks them, it picks those patterns, regularly study them, and gives them back to and suggests. So like it foresees a forecast. So how let me the machine learning, based on what is here on the screen, is saying, maybe I should let someone read, so that like I said, I want everybody to participate. And I don't want to be the only one talking to us. This is interactive session, and that way I believe the more you ask questions and participate, you tend to retain them faster and you understand better. So please, anyone can volunteer to read what's on the screen to us, please.
Artificial intelligence and Azure machine learning is cloud-based to develop, train, and deploy machine learning models. Cognitive services quickly enable apps to see, hear, speak, understand, and interpret a user's needs. Azure Bot service develop intelligent enterprise-grade bots.
All right, thank you very much. So, looking at this in a simple way, when we say something is machine learning, or let me even start with the AI itself to give us an overview. Now, this AI has to deal with how machines can imitate human intelligence, and that's why they call it artificial. Okay, you have all those robots, and that's why when you want to learn robotics, they tell you robotics and AI. You know, it's just how those machines imitate the human intelligence, the thinking, the doings, and all of those. It's the imitation of it. And the machine learning aspect is now that techniques that allows these machines, or should I say computer, to forecast the future, a future outcome to us. Have you ever wondered about, Google Maps, and you are marveled at how almost accurate they can be? I'm using the word almost accurate because sometimes if you're using Google Map and you're the type that drives, Google Map could lead you to someone else's gate thinking it's a road. Don't mind, that's just a on the side. It has happened to me before, but that's just on the side. But I'm just saying, this machine learning, uh don't forget they deal with data too. The data you give them to study over time, to look at over time. So it's a technique. It allows this machines, it allows our computers it to predict or forecast an outcome to us. We also have service cognitive service, just like what you read to us. This particular service, uh, they quickly enable app to see, hear, speak, and understand and interpret users' needs. Okay. Don't forget they're all under the umbrella of AI. These things listed on the screen. You have, I don't know if some of us have heard about or even own Siri. No, these are like artificial intelligence assistants. Even your phone, there are sometimes that you hold your phone, probably you just say something out of nowhere, it starts to tell you, oh, I can tell you what this means. I can, tell you, and you're wondering who turned off this thing. I don't know if it has ever happened to you, please. So can anybody relate? It starts to do a search for you based on probably a word that it's pick. I know Google Assistant, does that. They try to, you know,
I
quickly
think Google, before
assist.
Google,
You said what? Hello? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You can say that again, please.
I
Okay,
was
so for me,
talking
the Google
about Google
Assistant also
service.
works for me.
Okay. So there was another person too. Google Assistant, yes, is part of this AI. There's another person that was trying to say something. Please go ahead.
I was talking about Google services too, like this Google call something that you speak and then to automatically
Oh, okay.
Google what you said.
Okay, yeah. So they're all of these things make use of the artificial intelligence. So these are under the umbrella of that. And the last but not the least is the Azure Bot service. Develop intelligent enterprise grade bots. When we say bots, I'm sure you know what you mean. And another example you can relate to it is probably if you go to a site, let's say internet banking site or maybe any bank site, you will notice something come up and trying to chat with you and say hello. Some banks has even given this bot a name. They'll tell you, UBA will tell you is Ada. One will tell you, they have fun different names for them, but they are not actually an agent like a person, that is responding to you from the other end. No. So most time, this site could let you know that you are actually talking to a bot. So it will ask you, how may I help you? I don't know if any one of us has come across something like that. Anyone?
Yes, I have. I have.
Okay, great. So you're not actually chatting with a person, not like you're chatting with Tosin, who may happen to be a customer, care rep or a customer service agent. Now, not actually chatting with human. We refer to them as bots. So the way the bot has built, they are built, intelligently. Don't forget that we said the artificial intelligence is to simulate or to imitate human intelligence, and this bot service also serve as that. You are asking, how do I open an account? So this has been developed intellectually to give you the response on how you can open an account. Okay, it chats you, so every information you ask, it gives it back to you. So most of the time, some organization, not all, depending on what they want to use their bot for, they can use it to answer frequently asked questions, or they can use it to answer their any question relating to their products or relating to their services, or they may even want to collect. It can be for anything. Some bots can be used depending on the organization for even maybe to mark attendance. You come in the morning and you sign in to say I'm in, or I'm here. There could be various syntax that you can use for that. But in essence, we're just telling you that this develop intelligent, and yes, you can have them in the enterprise grade scale. I don't know if you have any question before we move on. Any question, please? Okay, so in absence of no question, let's talk about serverless computing one more time. This is something we've mentioned in our previous learnings, and it's here again. Now, the reason why the serverless computing is here again is because when it comes to core solutions, it's centered around either the software as a service offering or the PaaS, which is the platform as a service offering. Now, the serverless computing, you know, can be, we can say it's, synonymously under that, category, even though it's not exactly a platform as a service pass, but it can be likened, or, you know, compared side by side with such category. And again, that's why this serverless computing is coming up. You use the likes of your IoT, which, can make use of it with this serverless computing, and the services we have is Azure Function and Azure Logic Apps. So for Azure Function is an um, event-based code running on your service, not the underlying infrastructure. So this runs on your service, unlike app service. Now for app service, that's pass offering, and for Azure Function, yes, it's referred to as a serverless computing offering. Now, when we say serverless, for the benefit of those that may not be around the period we talked about it, it does not mean that that particular service is not going to make use of server. No, that's not exactly what it means. What it means is that it usually enables, so the target audience for this service are usually developers. So what it does is it will help developers to build their application faster by kind of eliminating the need to manage an infrastructure. So with Azure Function, there is no need of thinking of, oh, I need to manage an infrastructure or thereabout. No, you are not managing an infrastructure. You are not doing so. So whatever you need, you use it and you're billed for it. If you're not using it, you are not being billed. You are not being charged, for such. So that's why we can refer to it as is an on-demand. Is whenever you need it, that's when you get to use it. If you're not using it as at that moment, it's being released. And these two services are under the serverless computing. For Azure Logic Apps, it's automate and orchestrate task. Okay, there's a kind of workflow that transcend for the Azure Logic app. Okay, all of these they have their labs, and like I said, we'll be doing the labs at the end of the training. So I don't know if we have any question before we move on. So we'll look at this function app, how it's being triggered, and we'll do the test. That's after the end of all the training. Okay, so moving on. Again, we have talked about IoT, the IoT Hub, IoT Central, Azure Sphere. We've talked about big data, where we mentioned HD Insight, Azure Databricks, Azure Snaps, and even the data lake. Now we've talked about AI and ML, where we talked about bot service, we talked about the cognitive service, and we talked about machine learning. Okay, so now we want to look at DevOps, and this is something that is out there. This is something that for those organizations are looking out for. DevOps, not just DevOps. I'm just saying it's just one of those, you know, hot gig out there that organizations usually look out for. They want DevOps experts. There are learnings out there about DevOps. So let's try to understand what is even this DevOps. Now, for DevOps, I can put it in this simple way to say it gives you an ability to put your code in Azure, such that this code you put in Azure, you can put it in repo or GitHub. Now you can create, there's something called CI/CD pipeline, so that it will automatically build this application and deploy it in your environment. So it uses what some of those serverless computing that we mentioned, the likes of our Azure function. It can use it. It uses services like Kubernetes. We call them Azure Kubernetes Service (AKS). It uses container instance. I know that's a CI. It uses even the VM. Okay, you can use any of those environment. Now, if you look at what it's on the screen, it's letting us know that the Azure DevOps, this is a development collaboration tool, including pipelines, Kanban boards, automated cloud-based load testing. Okay, so if you break it, I usually refer to it that okay, development operations are no, but we know it to be DevOps. Now, this GitHub is actually software development hosting with version control. So whereby you have source. I remember when we were taking was it app service? Yeah, I think it was app service or thereabout. I can't remember. There was a time we're talking about Azure app service and thereabout. We mentioned GitHub where we're doing Azure app service. Okay, we now have the GitHub actions for Azure. It automates software workflow to build, test, and deploy from within the GitHub. And finally, we have the Azure Dev Test Lab. This one quickly creates environment in Azure while you're minimizing waste and controlling. So what I would say to us, especially for some of us that are new to this, is do not overthink it. For DevOps, like I said, it just gives you the ability to put in your code on the Azure repo or this GitHub. So it's for developers. It's targeted towards uh, developers. Yes, it's also works with this Azure App Service too. So I don't know if we have any question. I am trying not to go, deep dive into this. So that's why I'm staying on the surface. But in case you have any question, maybe we can talk about it.
Hi, Tosin. Well done, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Please, regarding Azure DevOps, you said
Yes.
it's basically for programmers.
Yeah,
If I get
developers. Yeah, developers. Like you don't
developers.
have to. Yeah, developers. I'll say developer because they are the ones that kind of publish codes and all of it within this. So yes.
Oh, okay, I get that. My other questions will wait till the end of the session.
Oh, okay, please. Any
Thank
other
you.
person? All right, please. Okay. Now, let me use this opportunity to mention this. The things we are learning from the Azure fundamentals is just to give us an idea, an overview of everything about, Azure. So it's not like we are concentrating on one thing. No, we are just picking little things like on the surface, basic things to understand, the entire overview or the architecture or the services within Azure. So that's what we are this foundation or fundamental training is about. So because you notice we've talked about the infrastructure aspect, we've talked about the our platform aspect with regards to codes and all. We've talked about big data. We've talked about so many things, and yes, those are the base. So even here, for those of us that are still in school, we can start to form what path we want to take. Like, do I want to go into uh, data engineering? so that I can just, focus on big data and all. Or you might start thinking, do I want to be a DevOps engineer such that, I focus into software development lifecycle, and, just because that's what DevOps engineers do. They try to understand software development lifecycle, and they kind of have an understanding of the various automation tools for this. Remember I talked about the CI/CD pipeline, some of those things and all. So yeah, one can, get to understand. Now, is it strictly um like your first question? Is it strictly developers that get to use DevOps? I'll say mainly yes, because they're the ones that write codes and develop this. But in between, you also have testers, the people that test this code, and you have admins. The admins are users, the people that manage this code, and there are several roles within this space. So what I'm saying is that as you're learning these are fundamental, you can have an open mind to begin to form that part, to say I want to go this part, or I want to go that part. This, like for me, someone like me, I can use myself as an example. I'm sorry if I'm digressing. I'm just trying to relate and help you understand, so that you know the essence of this training, and that is not a waste of time whatsoever. Okay, so unlike me, I was able to go through all of these things just like you do, and I'm able to form and say, okay, I want to focus be more in the infrastructure aspect. Okay, another person within this training could say, okay, I enjoy all this, I like programming, I'm a developer, I want to stay within the PaaS platform. The truth is that you cannot major in everything round. Yes, you can know about it, you can have an idea and work with it, but your specialty would actually be maybe one thing. I don't know if you're getting me. Your specialty could be, okay, big data. Your specialty could, there's no way you can specialize in all at the same time. Don't get me wrong, you can know about it, you can be knowledgeable about it, you can be skilled about it, but when it comes to specialization, you may have to specialize in one thing. Okay, so without wasting our time, let's move on. Next year is Azure Management Tools. Azure Management Tools. Again, I'll do a recap so that we kind of get a flow, and for benefit of whoever that is just joining. The flow is, we've talked about IoT, where we mentioned IoT Hub, IoT Central, IoT Sphere. We talked about big data, where we mentioned the um, HD Insight, the Azure Databricks, the Synapses, and even Data Lake. We talked about artificial intelligence, where we mentioned the machine learning, we mentioned cognitive service, we mentioned bot service. Now, we also looked at DevOps, where we mentioned the you know uh, GitHub. you know we mentioned the GitHub, as well as, okay, yes, we mentioned the GitHub, the Azure Labs, and the Azure DevOps itself. Now we are going into a new list, which is Azure Management Tools. Now, the objective of this is to describe the functionality and usage of these tools, where we have the likes of the Azure Portal, PowerShell, CLI, Cloud Shell, Azure Mobile Apps. We have Azure Advisor for monitoring. We have the ARM templates, Azure Monitor, Azure Service Health, and this we will be looking at. So let's start with the Azure Portal. By now, I'm sure we know what the Azure portal is by now. Okay, So this actually gives you a some kind of graphic user interface where you can get to manage, you can deploy, you can test, you can manage your services, your Azure services. Okay, so that's with Azure portal. We also have the likes of PowerShell. Okay, so for PowerShell, that uses commandlet. So it's is more or less a CLI. So when I say GUI for Azure Portal, is graphic user interface. You can get to click, do next. It helps you to, deploy. It helps you to manage. You can do your test. For PowerShell, is more of less like a command line interface. Okay, but this is beyond the regular command prompt that we are familiar with. Okay, the PowerShell here make use of commandlet, to work, and this commandlet has a format of something like a verb noun. So, like I said, I am promising you that I would have another session where all we'll discuss is just about PowerShell, because if you'll be going into Azure from time to time, you will get to use this PowerShell. Okay, so we have the command line interface itself. Okay, so the command line interface is a cross-platform command line program, and what it does is it connects to Azure, and it helps us to execute administrative commands on resources. Now, when I say cross-platform, what I mean is that it can run on Windows, it can run on Linux, it can run on Mac OS. Okay, so this what's it called? So we have this. That's why we said we have PowerShell, and PowerShell is a CLI interface, and we equally have something called Azure CLI itself. Now, the PowerShell and Azure CLI now, their difference is just their syntax. They get to do same thing, but their syntax is what differentiates them. Okay, so we also have I don't know if you got that, please. Hello, please,
Yes,
are we
we did.
together? Oh, okay. Because
Yes.
I wanted to be sure I didn't confuse us with regards to CLI, because I remember saying PowerShell can also be referred to a task-based command line interface. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is the fact that the PowerShell can be a command line interface that works on all these various operating systems. We equally have Azure CLI too. Okay, and this Azure CLI equally works with different operating system. What differentiates the CLI from Azure PowerShell is the fact that they use different syntax. Okay, their commandlets are different. So we equally have what's it called? We have REST API and Cloud Shell. Now for Cloud Shell, these are the ones that you find within the Azure portal. Okay, it's within the Azure portal. It works like the Azure PowerShell, but this time around it's used within the Azure portal. It's browser accessible. Let me use it that way. You access it via the browser. Okay, that's what I was saying. You can use it with the Azure partial. Now for this, you it can give you that let's say flexibility of you choosing what experience you want to use it for. So what do I mean by that? You can use it to work to get what works for you. You can use Cloud Shell to say, okay, I'm a Linux user, I'm not a Windows user, and yes, I want to use the Azure Cloud Shell. So what it will provide for you is to give you some kind of batch experience, like where you can get to use a Bastion, okay, and so it just gives you room, to choose or to make a choice of what works for you. Whether you want to have the experience with Linux and it gives you room to use Bastion, or you want to have experience with Windows, where it gives you maybe partial environment. I don't know if you get. So all of these are various tools. People can prefer to use just strictly partial because they believe, okay, I'm used to partial, I'm good with the syntax, and I know my way around it. Now the same what's it called, the same results you will get using PowerShell is the same results you will get using Azure Portal. Imagine we using Azure Portal to create a user. Like I said, we will do lab, and you'll see it within the lab. So let's assume I want to create a user. If I can use my um, Azure Portal to go ahead and navigate to the Azure Active Directory, to go and create a user, or I can use my PowerShell. The same thing, I can use a CLI, I can use a Cloud Shell, I can use, API, I can use any of the tools. Okay, maybe a perfect example is more of a resource. I want to create a VM, for instance. I can go ahead to portal, that's the portal.azure.com, to create my VM. I can decide, okay, I don't want to use the portal. Let me just open up my PowerShell and you know write the use the commandlets, probably my line of code and all of it. I'm able to with just a line, I can create my PowerShell. I'm sorry, my VM. So the same results you will get while using Azure Portal, the same results you will get while using PowerShell, the same results you will get while using any of this, even this ARM. Um, there's something called ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager template. Now, all of these, you get the same results. Okay, so let me use the opportunity to talk about the ARM template. Then I'll still go back to which one have I missed out? The mobile app and REST API. Now for templates, we use template to deploy a resource to Azure. Okay, it makes life easier. So let's assume you've created a VM before and you want to recreate another VM. Now the idea is you need to go through the entire steps you did. Let's assume you're even using Azure Portal. The entire step you went through to create the first VM. Maybe you did, like, let's say 5 steps. I'm not saying it is 5 steps. I'm just assuming, okay, maybe it was 5 steps that enable us to deploy one VM. Now, rather than going through all that steps again, we can export the template of an already created VM. And this already created template, which works in a JSON format, we can edit it, edit to say, okay, maybe the first VM you created was Textilas VM. You can edit it to say, okay, this second one that I'm about to create using template, you can edit to say, okay, this one will be called Textilas 2. This is going to be my username. You can just edit those parts and you run the ARM template. It will equally give you that result as to going through the portal to create. So it's kind of faster, and it has its own benefits. Like I said, it's faster. You have this already code that you can reuse, if I can put it that way. You can even link this code to other things that you want to use. It makes use of modular. Okay, then it's help you to, so I can call it automation. It's more or less like automation because you don't have to repeat. It saves you from repeating, the same steps. So yes, let's now talk about REST API, Azure REST API. Now okay, I'm sorry, I think I skipped mobile apps, right? Okay, sorry, I skipped mobile apps. So for mobile apps, this just from the word Azure mobile app, you can have, use it with your phone, your tablet, and all. So this also is a tool. Rather than using the Azure portal and all, you can utilize the Azure mobile app. And for REST API, this REST API, works in line with the what's it called, Azure Resource Manager. I don't know if we have any question. I'm sorry, please, if you notice I'm not going in depth. I'm just trying to stay, you know, on the basics and not confuse us, in any way. So that's why I just pick it. But one thing you should know here is that all of these items listed on the screen are referred to as the management tools. And when we say management tools, it helps us to, deploy, it helps us to configure, it helps us to test, and all of those things. So we have options for this thing. So yes, these are the things. Um, if I should talk a little bit about REST API without confusing us, I think let me pick API first. When we say something is API, we actually is an acronym and is referred to as application programming interface. Okay, API. Now the API here is usually allows clients to talk to it. So it's developers that usually create APIs, and developers usually create APIs on servers so that it will allow clients to talk to it. So let's take, for instance, I could say I have there's this thing within, I'm sorry, I don't want to confuse us, but there's this thing within M365, the M365 admin center. On the admin center, I know we're not dealing with M365, but I feel like I mentioned just for us to get an API. Okay, let me not go that far. Let me just mention this. For instance, Microsoft is not a domain provider. Probably you want to purchase a domain now to say textilers.com. Microsoft is not a domain provider, or they are not domain registrars. But what happened is they have the likes of GoDaddy, the likes of what's it called, Freenom, the likes of Server, and so many of those domain registrars. So, but specifically with Microsoft is GoDaddy. So GoDaddy has its API on the portal, such that whenever you are purchasing, a domain on the portal, you are actually purchasing from GoDaddy. They are the domain registrar. Its API is just seated on Azure. I don't know if you're getting me, please. That's why I said usually the API is created on server, but it allows clients to talk to it. I don't know if you get that explanation, please. Now let's talk about REST. REST as well is also an acronym. I'm breaking it down for us to see if we can get to help us get it better. REST itself is also an acronym, and the acronym is referred to as representational state transfer. That's what it's called, representational state transfer. Okay, so what it does is it's usually a set of rules that developers used to follow when they are creating API. I don't know if you are following me, please. Is a rule that developers usually follow when they are creating API. That is, when they are creating their application programming interface, the rules they follow. So now we have this Azure REST API. So it's also a tool, where you have rules that follow to create an API. But I don't know if you get me. I'm avoiding going in deep dive. Please, I hope I've not confused anyone in any way. Are we together, please? Hello, are we together? Can I move on?
Yes, we can hear you. Listen.
All right, thank you. Okay, so these two would look at the, lab at the end of this training. So do for ARM templates, PowerShell, CLI. Now let's take a look at Azure Advisor. So for Azure Advisor, what do they do? The Azure Advisor will help analyze uh, already deployed Azure resource, and they make recommendation based on best practice to optimize this Azure deployment. So for instance, the organization, okay, we have some clients, we're able to, they have resources like VM, resources like, database and all of those.
Right.
Now, hello, is someone trying to ask a question, please? Okay, fine. So for the Azure Advisor, what will happen is the Azure Advisor will, kind of analyze the resources to check out for, let's say, take VM for instance. It checks out if that VM is being underutilized. Maybe it's not, you're not using it often, or it has low workload. Probably you deployed an expensive VM and all you get to do with it does not warrant you using such VM. And the Azure Advisor would help, analyze this already deployed resource and give you recommendation based on that. It can recommend to you to say, okay, why don't you downsize this VM, to a smaller, and it to, make it cost effective for you, something like that. That's what the Azure Advisor would do. I don't know if we're getting that, please. It will recommend to you to, advise you based on, usage. Like, okay, this thing you don't get to use, it doesn't warrant this particular configuration that you are using. You're underutilizing it. I don't know if any of us have had parents who has, maybe some of those, but not because they are not learned, but they have maybe iPhone 12, and you realize that all they use that phone for is to call, receive call, and that's all. For someone like you, what you can quickly say in your mind is, my parents are underutilizing this thing. If all they want to do is just to call and to make calls and that's all, then they can go for something lesser. I don't know if you're getting me, please. So this is where Azure Advisor comes in. It will give you recommendation. It will give you best practices. Now this I've mentioned this example based on cost, to say, okay, you're using an expensive VM, you're underutilizing this VM, why don't you downsize? It also speaks based on reliability, based on security, performance, and so on and so forth. So these things are what the Azure Advisor do. Okay, they are monitoring system. We call them, they're used for monitoring. The Azure Advisor, yeah, to analyze. So next year we have Azure Monitor, just
Sorry,
like the, yes
sorry,
please,
Tosi.
yes please.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just want to make a quick announcement before I jump off. Um, hello, ladies. Our anniversary session is next week, Saturday at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. So please, I would like to encourage every one of us to join in the session. It's for us. We're celebrating how far we've come, and everyone that has had an input into textiles. We'll be having special guests coming, like people like April, who have accepted the invite to give their time to let us know like how she got started in technology, her challenges. You also have the opportunity to ask her questions, some personal questions that you may like me. I wonder how she's able to produce such amazing videos every time, so and people like that. So please let's block our calendars for 6 p.m. next week, Saturday. It's going to be like 1 hour to 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and that's it. We want to cancel the classes for next week because we don't want a situation of meeting fatigue where you have been sitting in Azure class for 2 hours and then you don't come to the anniversary session. But I will leave Tosin because I know Tosin has a lot to cover, and I will leave you guys with Tosin to decide if you still want to go ahead and have your class or not. But The anniversary session is priority for textilers. I don't want people coming and seeing only 2 people on the call, or 3 people. So for us, it's priority for us for next week, and we would want suspend every other meeting so people can do everything they need to do, personal stuff, to attend the anniversary session. So please, I know Azure class is a unique class and I don't want to stall. So if you agree with Tosin that you would attend the inspirational session, and your class at 10 o'clock will not disturb you from attending the class at 6, then it's fine. But all other classes will not hold. So I just like to let us know and to encourage us to please join. I mean, Textiles has done a lot, we're giving a lot, and the least we want is your presence at this session. So please, let's try to prioritize it in our calendars. Thank you. We'll send the join link everywhere, so you will see the link to join at 6 o'clock next week, Nigerian time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Foy.
Yep.
Okay, so we can continue, and of course, we would conclude what you think. So I'll leave it open, whatever decision you make. If you still want to have it in the morning and you still be able to join in the evening, it's fine. If you want us to, cancel it totally for next week, and you still so that we can enable, it's also fine. Whichever decision you make is fine by me. So we'll deliberate at the end of the training, please.
Thank you, Tosin.
All right. So let's continue. Azure Monitor. Now this Azure Monitor, um, of course, from the name, is a monitoring, service. They collect and analyze data. So that's in simple terms, collect and analyze the data. Now here is saying Azure Monitor maximize the availability and performance of applications and services by collecting, analyzing, and acting on telemetry from cloud and on-premises environment. So the list here are the different Azure Monitor that we have. We have the application insight, we have the log analytics, we have the smart alert, automation actions, and customized dashboard. Now all of these are referred to as Azure Monitor. We have the likes of, I think it should be mentioned, let me not be too forward in terms of metrics and logs and all. I think let me not be too forward. So that's with regards to Azure Monitor. So I don't know if we have any question before I move on. Okay, you'll be wondering if Azure Monitor actually analyzes, data. It collects and analyzes data. Then, what are these other, HD insights? What do they do? The Azure Databricks, don't forget that those ones are in the category of big data, something when you're analyzing data of over 1 TB, something very large. Okay, that's so the analytics for those ones are for the big data. Okay, for this is more or less like, okay, the services, the resources you have within your cloud environment. So, for instance, I have resources like VM, I have resources like virtual networks, I have resources like app service. I have all of those resources and services. What my Azure Monitor is going to do is going to collect and analyze, these things for me, okay, and it will provide me results. So that's what Azure monitoring does. So it's actually an effective monitoring strategies. And yes, it helps us to understand all of these details operation about our application. Okay, so next here we have, sorry, Azure Service Health. Azure Service Health. Now, this has to do with health of our services. It's as simple as that. The health of our services, if I can put it that way for you to understand, then yes, that is it. So what it does, it will evaluate now the impact of Azure services or service issues with the personalized guidelines and issue resolution update. So what it does in a simple way is it will identify within your environment, like which particular service is not LD, or is there an issue with a particular service, or so to say. Now it analyzes that, and it also provide resolution to that. So yeah, that's a basically simple way to explain the Azure Service Health. Okay. Any question, please? Okay. Even though we are talking about, let me go back to slide. Don't forget this. Sorry. The Azure Advisor, Azure Monitor, Service Health. It's we trying to
Um,
understand. Yes, please.
so I'm still doing lab today.
Yes, we would start something today. We still have time. We usually finish by 12, and we're almost done. So we'll begin the lab. Okay, so a quick one before I move on to the next thing. Okay, I here still on the Azure Service Health. Like I said, the Azure Service Hub provides us a personalized view of the health of our services. I think I just mentioned that it helps us with the health of our services. And yeah, it does communication regarding outages. In case there are outage in a particular region or something, it will provide you information or give you an alert on planned maintenance. When you say planned maintenance, that is, it's something that you prepare to do. And I'm sure some of us will receive text messages from our banks when they tell you, oh, we'll be having maintenance, you may not be able to reach this channel, maybe the ATM or one thing. We all get communications like that. Those are like planned maintenance because they want to do it ahead, and they are informing you ahead in case you experience you know things that, okay, you cannot access this channel, but this is an alternative. Okay, the same thing when it comes to outages, those are the kinds that are unexpected, and they start to apologize for the service that was down. That's why you get apologies for service being down, but it's back up now and all. Then you get other advisories. Now, if you don't mind me, let me mention difference between the Azure Monitor and the Azure Health. Now, this Azure Monitor would help you understand how your applications are performing. It will help you to identify issues that are affecting them. That's on it. But for Azure Service Health, those will help you to stay informed and take actions on when there are issues like what is on the screen here. These outages, or planned maintenance and all. I don't know if you get the difference, please. Okay. So that's with regards it. Now I know I've mentioned ARM templates before, but it's also here again. The ARM template, which is the resource manager templates, they are usually a JSON file. That's the JavaScript object notation. Refer to them as JSON file. Now we use this to create and deploy Azure infrastructure without having to write any programming command. So there's already a resource that has been deployed. One can export the templates. You can get that template such that it's that template that you reuse to create a new resource. Okay, they work using the JSON files. They have declarative syntax. When we say something is declarative, you can actually you know mention what you want, like what you need to do. That's been uh, declarative. Like you say, like, okay, you need it to do this. This is the essence of using the template. You can get repeatable results, since it can be reused. You can get repeatable results. Can be used for orchestration, maybe used with the likes of AKS, our Azure Kubernetes. It has modular files. I say something module in bits, if I can use that word. Then you have built-in validation and exportable code. That is, you can export the template. And yes, these are services within Azure. Yes, we have come to the end of this module. Any question before I quickly, you know, bring up the labs? Please, I want to ask, the labs I dropped, did anyone have the chance to go through it, or maybe even practice one? I don't know. Did anyone get a chance to? Okay, so I know not everybody that are currently on this call were around last week. So last week I mentioned that the labs, that is the step-by-step guide to help us in creating our lab, is on our Teams channel. So you can go there and you would see the labs. It's inside the folder called Azure Labs. Okay, from there, because you can get to see the lab. They are actually step by steps, and yes, they can. You can use that to practice on your own. So, any question, please? Okay, so in the absence of no question, um, let's get to do the lab. I know we have just about 20 minutes, but I'll bring up a demonstration. The one we can do now before 12, we will do. I will drop the lab guide. Ladies, please trust me. When you do things on your own, you get a clearer understanding and you'll be able to relate it with what you've learned in class. Even if I get to demonstrate these things in class, the experience will not be the same when you practice on your own. So I will encourage us, please. I know we're all busy, either school, work, or whatever that we have in on our schedule. But in that time, let's try to create time to do the lab. Okay, 1 minute. Let me share my screen. But please, any question, please. Any question, anything probably relating directly to this class or something that you have on mind that you want to check. Please feel
Yeah,
free.
I have. Hello,
Go ahead.
can you hear
Yes, I
me?
can hear you. Yes, go ahead. I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
I missed the last class, but I have some questions. I think I should ask them. It's not one, it's not two. I should ask them before we divert into the lab. Yeah, my first question is, okay, I think a class before we spoke about app service. So I
Yeah.
tried having a lab on that. I created my app service. So when I finished, I got this web browser saying either you get started, a quick start, or you don't have a code deployed yet. So I did a quick
Yes.
start I had to download Visual Studio IDE, and I ran some
Okay.
code. Like I know about small HTML, and I did some code. It worked.
Okay.
So when I finished, and I started asking myself, what exactly is my role here? If I'm going to be, because with the class we had today, I'm able to pick that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That when it comes to Azure environment, we have the cloud infrastructure, the Azure infrastructure, we have the DevOps, and we have that of the AI, IoT, and ML, which is three. So you can either pick one of the three to focus on, if I'm right.
Okay, let me correct. You have so many, so many. I was
Yeah.
just mentioning based on the things we've done so far.
Wow. Okay.
Like,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
there's still more classes. So I'll still, as we are introducing new things, we add it to, what we already know. Okay. It's because we
Okay.
can
I get.
relate with those things. That was why I mentioned that we have so many. It's beyond
Okay.
what we've learned so far. There's still more things, not just DevOps, not just app service, not just we have networking, even with and it's within Azure that you can specialize and just your networking person, your networking guy. Even the VM can be a standalone. App service can be a standalone. Although what I was just trying to help us differentiate is to say is based on the offering. I was separating based on offering to say infrastructure as a service offering, platform as a service offering, SaaS, that software as a service offering. So I was differentiating them based on these offerings. But within each service offering, you have so much like different parts. I don't know if some of us have had opportunity to just browse or surf the internet to take a look at Microsoft exams. Maybe I should even do that now. You would understand. Let me do that now, please. If that's one thing we're able to pick today, I'm fine. I can always do the lab. Okay, that's true. Let me ask us, is next week, do you want us to hold the class next week and just dedicate it to labs of what we've done today? I'm just
Yes,
asking.
please. Yes, we should have class next week, preferably lab.
Please, do we all agree? I'm hearing just one person's voice.
Yes, I agree.
All right, thank you. So what I'm getting here is we'll have that class next week, but then we are just dedicating it to labs. We will do our labs, we'll carry out our lab. For those of us that have tried some things and you have a question, you can bring it, for next week. For those of us that, probably along the way you came across an error, trust me, error is good. When you get errors, they are good. They help us to learn better and it helps us to identify different ways we can go about things. So it's always nice. When I see error, I don't panic. I don't panic, especially when I'm doing it for myself to learn things. I don't panic. When you're working in customers' environment or site based on the kind of job I do, I still don't panic because I know eventually we will get it resolved. The only thing that may bring pressure is based on the timeline when they want it, executed, or based on timeline might be the pressure. But that you got through an error is not the end of the world. It's just an avenue to learning, so many ways. Let me go back to share my screen. I said I wanted to mention something about Azure role-based exam so you can understand the different parts. So please permit me. Can you see my screen, please? I'm currently sharing. Please let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yes, ma.
All right, great. Thank you. So first of all, let's take a look at the product itself. So these are all Microsoft products ranging from .NET to Azure to Dynamics, Dynamics 365, M365, Microsoft Defender for Endpoints, Endpoint Manager, Microsoft Teams, Office. So these are various products. Now our focus here is on Azure. Now if we come here, you would see that there are various exams to this Azure. Now, if so, what is giving us here is just exams, all the exams under Azure, all of it, okay? But we have different roles within Azure. We have, let me do this first. Let's filter it out. let's filter based on beginner. So for beginner, you would see for Azure, you see exams like Azure 900, which are Azure Fundamentals. That's what we are trying to understand right now. We have still this is the certificate. Sorry, this is the certification. This is the exam. Okay, we have the likes of SA 900. So anything you see and the number is 900, whether it is Azure or M365 or Dynamics, what that means is just beginners level. Now, let me go to intermediate. Intermediate, you would see the likes of AZ140, AZ 100 and all. So what I'm trying to say is there are different parts. Let me do it based on certification. Okay, so there are different parts. This one is saying Azure Data Scientist, Azure. So that's a part on its own. That's like a way you're focusing on big data. Okay, now you have Windows Virtual Desktop is a specialty, cause some people could decide to specialize on this. You have AI, Engineering Associate, that's also, but don't forget that I browsed intermediate level. Sorry, I filtered it to intermediate level. Okay, so I can filter. What I'm trying to say is it's not limited to those things I mentioned during the training. That's just the things we've done so far was those things I mentioned. If you look at it here, you have IoT developer, you have Azure administrator, you have database, you have security, you have developer, and this is just, let me go for beginner certification. So for beginner, you have the part of security compliance within the identity. Here you have for artificial intelligence fundamental, you have Azure Fundamental, which is the things we're learning right now. We have the Azure Data Fundamental. In fact, I will encourage us at the end of the training that we can try to do this AZ 900. Yes, I think at the end of training, because we would have pretty much covered everything that you need to know. So you can take it, and most of the time, AZ 900 based on COVID-19 and all, there is no lab. So you have your multiple choice where you can click the best or the correct answer or the best suitable answer. So this is just within the beginners level, and that's why we've picked one of it. Now, probably when we finish AZ 900, we can jump to identity, still do the foundation. We can jump to AI, do the foundation. We can jump to data, do the foundation. So the essence of this training that we're doing is to pick one of them one after the other, and we progress on it. I don't know if you're getting me, please. So what we started with is the Azure Fundamental. As soon as we complete, we can decide, we can all deliberate to decide and say, which should we go for next? And we will take it up that way. I don't know if you get it. I can make it flexible. I won't impose on you. It's just based on what parts should we look at again, to understand and all of this. So we have, all of these various parts based on the roles. You would also know better. You have the administrator role, you have the business user role, you have the developer role, you have data analytics role, you have data engineer role, data scientist, students, you have database administrator, AI, and technology manager. So Azure is role based, or should I say Microsoft utilizes a role based course. So it's not something like you must, let me use that word, it's not a must to know everything. No, that's not the idea. The idea is just the fundamentals we're doing currently is for you to have an idea of bits of everything, and you can now decide and make up your mind to say, okay, I just want to be an administrator, I'm fine. Okay, and for that, sorry please, for that I'm just going to go through this for beginner, and if I want to go through advanced, as an administrator, I can say, okay, let me look into any of this, which means you have advanced in the learning, and that's the path you want to take. Okay. So if you're saying, okay, I'm not into administrator, I want to go into identity and access administrator, then there's also a path. This is the advanced part. Let me see. It has um, just this advanced path level. Okay, so you can specialize. You can be, okay, I just want to be within the Azure space. I just want to be a security, security engineer. Ladies, I don't know if you're understanding me, please. So I'm just trying to let us know that you is not compulsory, it's not a must to say you want to learn everything, like advance in everything at once. You can always choose a role and be a master of that role by creating a path. You have started with the foundation. You can advance to say, okay, I've done AZ900, I've understood, the required skills. I can move on to AZ104, which is intermediate. I can move on to become a solution architect, and that's what I want to be. So you can take that path like that and become that. I don't know if that explains your question, please, or that clarifies it somewhat. Any other question,
Yes,
please?
yes. I think I'll keep it to the lab because our time is running out.
Oh,
I'll keep it
okay.
to next week.
So,
Thank you so
all right, all right. So please, since you have agreed with me that we should have lab next week, same time. So yeah, I'll be here with us to do just so what we are doing next week is just labs. Rather than saying let's cancel the class, we'll do just these labs, and by 6 p.m. we will join this textiles that Foyin mentioned to us. I want to say a big thank you for your time. Also, the labs, I can equally put the steps, the lab guide in our folder for us to see. For some of us that have time on our side that want to practice before that day, it's fine. There's no problem. That what that means is it will even ease up or speed up, rather, to speed up our learning, because we've tried it before. We are probably coming to ask more questions, or we are probably coming to advance in the lab aspect. So a very big thank you to you for your consistency, patience, and time. You guys are much appreciated. Thank you very much.
much. Thank you, mom. God bless you too.
Thank you,
Yep,
ma.
sense. Thank you all. So
Thank
bye
you.
everyone. Thank you. Bye everyone.
Bye. Bye.